Hello and welcome to another edition of Chill with Kaiju Kim. I'm Kaiju Kim. Hope you're all doing well on this lovely afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you. Did you know that this channel is almost 11 years old and was originally under a different name? Well, now you know. My guest for tonight is an old friend of mine from my OG YouTube days. We bonded over the love of Godzilla and for video making. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my friend Rijark Ortega, aka RudySpino.
Oh man, that takes me back.
Yeah, right.
So cool. That's
How's it?
11 years, really, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. It's been quite some time.
Where did the time go? But anyways, what's up?
Where did the time go? All right, let's see who we have in the chat. We have Vapor Dreams. How's it going? And my boy Matt from Monstrosities. Thanks for stopping by. So, should I call you Rijark or Rudy?
Rijark's better. I don't really respond to like somebody called me that on the street. I wouldn't notice.
Like, hey, Rudy. Like, what? Who's Rudy? Who is that?
Like,
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, it would be exactly that. You know, it'd be like Rudy.
All right, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? What do you do? And more importantly, what got you into Godzilla?
A Requiem for a Dream music video. Well, kind of. Man, back in the day, I remember people used to put that song on anything. So I would just look that up, be like, I wanna see clips from a thing. So somebody's made a Requiem for a Dream music video. It's probably still up. If you look it up, let me look it up. They made one for Jurassic Park. They made one for, let me see. Looking up real quick.
You can share your screen if you find it.
Yeah, it's right here. I think is this the right one?
Maybe.
Yeah, this is definitely it. I've never used a streaming app before, but I put it on the private chat.
Okay. One moment, please, ladies and gentlemen, while we figure this out.
I mean, I don't need to put it up. I just want to, put which one it was. I don't really need to watch the video, but
no, just real quick, just so people know what we're talking about here. One moment, please. So this is the video to which you're referring.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should play it because I don't want to get DMCA'd.
I wouldn't recommend it. Besides, if anybody wants to watch it, they can just go watch it. Like, there's not much well, whatever. Like, so I just saw clips of the thing. Like, I was always into dinosaurs as a kid.
Yeah.
As an adult too, but like, I remember one time my dad got me like one of those cheap Chinese knockoff Godzilla, like action figures ish, but it just comes like in a plastic bag, and it was the Final Wars Godzilla. And I remember I saw it, and I didn't like it at the time. I was like 8. It was like 2003, and I looked at it, and I was like, "That's not a real dinosaur." I was like, "What is this thing? It's wrong. It's standing upright, and it has like, what are these shards on its back? Like, this looks like a cartoon,
This is incorrect."
But like years later, I got around 2010 or so. I was really into. Well, I mean, I've always been into it, but like I was on like. You know how you go through like phases of stuff that you're into for like a while? So I was really into like cryptids and monsters and stuff like that. I mean, I'm still into that, but I was like really into it back then. And Godzilla was kind of obviously he's a monster, but he kind of fit that description ish, like he was like part of that. But at the time, I was one of those that like grew up on. I mean, I never saw it, but I knew of it, like the '98 Godzilla, Zilla. Like I had like toy. I got one right here. Hold up.
Alrighty. How's everyone doing in the chat? Good? Great. Awesome.
I got 2 of these. What?
Oh, nothing. I was just talking to the chat. What?
Well, I got 2 of these. I had this one, the one that launched the missile. You know, you would open it up and it had like a missile in here. I don't have the missile anymore.
Oh, yeah. Why would it shoot a missile?
Because it was their version of, I don't know, it'd be like, well, he shoots something out of his mouth, you know, might as well make it a missile. They would just put a missile in there. It's like, okay.
Okay.
And like, I mean, this one didn't even really have atomic breath, not really. So they were like,
I think I might have had that one as a kid, or my brother did.
isn't this the one?
Does it have a button on the side that makes him roar?
No, it had no sound effects.
Ah, okay.
It just, you just pull this little fin.
That's
The mouth opens up. You would load the missile in this hole in the back, right there.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
So the missile would go in there and it would come out here. And I had this other one. I remember one time. You remember Pick and Save? Back before it became Big Lots. It's a store. It was a store. I don't know if they have them where you live.
No, I don't remember that.
It was like in kindergarten, and I don't know. I had behaved well or something, or gotten good grades or whatever. And my mom was like, "I'm gonna buy you a dinosaur toy." So, we went there and they were just about to close. She ran in, and like 10 minutes later, she runs back out with like a big green and black box, and she has one of these. The tail's missing because it was like the whole thing's made of like hard plastic, but the back was like the tail would like do this.
Ah.
Yeah. I remember she just walked out, and I was like, it was like the preview. I saw it, and I was like, that's not a real dinosaur. But you know, I still like them.
Yeah.
So that was my idea. You know, like a lot of kids, that was my idea of Godzilla for like a while. I remember I would draw him once or twice, and I would draw him like this. You know, like with the forward shark fins on his back.
Yeah.
And the big square head. And then one day I remember around 2010, I was just looking up sound effects and stuff like that on YouTube, and I remember hearing his roar, and his roar sounded really unique. So, but it was the Zilla version, so you know it was a little more realistic. So, well, I thought it was cool. I just looked up more stuff about it, and eventually I found that music video, and I just saw clips, and I liked all the different types of clips, and I liked the detail about how his back would light up right before he shoots, and I was like, oh man, that's really unique. I don't know, I really like that. So I would draw it a lot. And I don't know, I just liked all the creature designs and the characters just off of that music video. It was like a best of Godzilla compilation. And after that, I got into it in like a day, because then I watched the Godzillathon by James Rolfe.
Oh yeah, me too.
I watched the Godzillathon, and that was basically everything. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm caught up in like a day. You know, it's like, okay, now I see, I get it. And this was 2000. That thing went up in 2008, but I saw it in 2010. So you know, the franchise had been dormant at the time, and it's interesting because now he ends the video with. I mean, he ends the whole Godzillathon with. So what about the future of Godzilla? And you know, he says like, well, rumor has it that this and that, and he mentions the Godzilla 3D to the max. You know, the one that's going to be in Las Vegas, the 40-minute IMAX thing.
Oh yeah.
He mentions that. Obviously, that never came to be. And I was like, yeah, what is with the future of Godzilla? And some guy in the comments, you can't find it anymore for whatever reason. He took down the original upload of that last Final Wars Godzillathon video. But in the comments, somebody said, yo, I heard that Legendary just bought the rights to Godzilla. They might be doing, you know, and it's like a real version now. You know, it's like the actual Godzilla. Like, they're not going to do like the 98 one. It's like, what? So I started looking that up. And there was like real news about it. You know, it was like, oh, yeah, it's really going to happen and this and that. So that was like in April or May-ish, maybe March, you know, around the springtime. That was around the time you and I started talking. And you and I started talking. I remember we edited that weird little thing where we edited like 3 versions of that video where it had the Mr. T dub. Remember that?
Vaguely. Refresh my memory.
Remember that old Snickers campaign ad in 2008?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was it. I still like the idea of that video, but like obviously I watch it now and I'm like, man, this is.
Oh, like, oh yeah,
Obviously I watch it now and I'm like, man, this is rough. Like it was the first thing I ever edited. I remember you sent me some links to how to edit on Movie Maker so that I could just adjust it myself. And it was just like a little meme skit before memes were like a mainstream thing,
yeah.
So I remember I put that up and it was like the alternate ending to Godzilla 1998. Real Godzilla shows up, whoops the fake one,
Now I
screams
remember.
like Mr. T's voice for some reason. Some reason he's voiced by Mr. T. I really like the Mr. T voice because he was in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Remember that movie?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw it. And like Officer Earl, the guy from the memes that runs like this.
Yeah.
And Officer Earl was my favorite character in that movie, and Mr. T voices him. So that's how I found the Snickers commercial, and then I made the connection. Let me turn on the light. Oh, it looks a little better.
There you go. You look beautiful.
Nice. So what happened? So that's how we started talking, and at the end of the Cinemassacre thing, the Angry Video Gamer thing, he says about the future of Godzilla, and he talks about the IMAX thing and all that. And there's a line at the end where he says, "I hope he fights King Kong again."
Oh, gee, that'll never happen. Oh.
But he talks about it like it's that's not gonna happen like ever. I hope he fights King Kong again.
Yeah.
And here we are, something like 10 years later from when I saw it. More like 12 or 13 years later from when the video came out. And that whole journey has finally ended. He fought King Kong again. The comment I saw, it came true. Legendary did, in fact, have the rights to Godzilla. They did make a movie. They took their sweet time doing it, but they did it.
Yep. It got done.
And here we are. And now, again, we're kind of questioning the future of Godzilla. Like, is he going to stay with Legendary? Obviously, there's the anime coming out, but it's like, is he going to stay with Legendary for a little while longer? Or are they going to take him back for her? Are they going to share custody? We don't know, but
yeah.
But it's kind of interesting it's been a long journey, but here we are now. That was the first time I ever edited something, but it was a matter of time. Like I feel like I was. I'm a filmmaker now. I work in media, film, and things of that nature.
Oh, cool.
I've done a few. Yeah, I went to film school for 3 years. I graduated in 2016, and I've been working several jobs in that industry ever since. But I live in Mexico, so it's different around here. And yeah, I don't really specialize in editing, but I started with editing. I mostly direct stuff and produce and things like that. But it all started basically with that. So I have you to thank for. I think it was probably going to happen eventually somehow, but well, I guess you just got you got to be the little straw, the little straw that breaks the camel's back and starts me down so this is how Movie Maker works. We start there and we move on up little by little.
Yes, Windows Movie Maker. That's how I got my start as well.
How everybody did these days.
Yeah, basically.
We make our iMovie, whatever the cheapest free editing software that comes with your whatever it is you got. It's pretty much how people start most of the time. And here we are.
Here we are indeed. So, so let's talk about our YouTube channels that we had back in the day. How did you come up with the name RudySpino? I think I remember the Spino came from you liking the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3.
Oh yeah. You heard it here first. I think that this is a wishful thinking. I hope that the Spinosaurus is in that last Jurassic World movie that's coming out next year.
I doubt it.
Because I just feel like that's I don't know. Like I feel like that's the logical arc they've been building up. He's got to be in something, but that's a whole separate conversation. But yeah, Spinosaurus was my favorite character. Okay, so the first dinosaur thing my mom ever showed me was Land Before Time. And man, shit, you've seen it, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, Sharptooth was my favorite character in that movie. I don't know, I was a sick kid or whatever. Obviously, the scene with the mom gets me now, but when I was a kid, it didn't affect me that much. I guess I didn't really understand the concept of death or whatever, or maybe how sad. I don't know. The point is, I like the T-Rex. I wanted him to win the fight. So when he did, I was like, yeah, this thing's cool,
Sick child.
So every time the T-Rex showed up, he was my favorite character, They're like, Sharptooth. And I'm like, yeah, get him.
Get him. Ripped him to shreds. Get him.
But, so Sharptooth is my favorite character, so T-Rex was my favorite for a little while. Because he beat the mom, because he beat the big one. Then I saw Jurassic Park for the first time. It was on TV. I just saw like the last half. Actually, no, the last 15 minutes or whatever. I came in when the raptors were in the kitchen. And when the raptors were in the kitchen, I remember I saw being like, Mom, that's a real dinosaur. What? And then the T-Rex attacks them at the end, and I was like, I need to see this movie. So they bought me the movie on VHS, and I watched it. And I remember I probably saw Lost World like in clips or whatever, but I don't think I had ever sat down to watch the whole thing for like a while. I didn't have much of a memory of it. But then Jurassic Park 3 came out, and I was 6 years old. And my dad and my uncle took me to see it.
Nice.
And when the Spinosaurus, in the first, 20, 30 minutes of the movie, the Spinosaurus fights a T-Rex. He runs into a green T-Rex, and he fights it. The fight is like 30 seconds long, and he wins. He breaks the T-Rex's neck.
I hated that part. Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I have a new favorite dinosaur.
Well then.
Like, oh, it's like that? Oh, this one's bigger? Well.
Well then.
So I updated my paperwork, my 6-year-old paperwork, and it's like, okay, party affiliation, Spinosaurus, and so that's why Spinosaurus was my favorite dinosaur.
Nice.
And so I hope it's in the last movie. I hope they have him as like the final antagonist. It's probably not going to be. It's probably going to be spoilers, but I've heard things. I don't want to go into them unless you want to hear them, but it's probably not going to be, but I would like it to be. So the thing is, when I walked out of the movie, I remember I asked my tío, when's the fourth one coming out? As if he knew that. As if he knew that. And he's like, I don't know, maybe I've heard in 2004. And I remember he told me, I've heard the title is going to be A New Beginning, Jurassic Park. I'm like, okay. I don't know if he had really heard that somewhere, or if he was just making it up on the spot. A lot of rumors. There's always been rumors. So, and I waited, and it just did. I was like, any day now.
Come on.
When I learned how to use the internet, for the longest time there were rumors that the movie was going to come out in 2008, and so I was like in the 5th grade. I was looking up on the internet and be like, when's Jurassic Park 4 coming out? It just wouldn't say, and it said like, oh, so some say 2008, but then Ice Age 3 came out when I was like 12 or 13ish in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And Ice Age 3 was basically my fix for my teenage years because it wasn't a Jurassic Park movie. I mean, did you see it?
I only saw like once or twice.
Okay, well, I saw it like 3 times in the theaters. I was never a big Ice Age fan. Never. Well, I knew of it. I saw the first one at like my aunt's house when I was like, I don't know, like when did it come out? 2002. I was like 7. And then I saw the second one in theaters. And then the third one comes out, and I'm like, well, it's got dinosaurs in it. I'll go see it. But the trailer, this doesn't happen in the movie, but the trailer had the T-Rex roar from Jurassic Park. And I got a friend, Emiliano, who we have this joke where we say like, whenever something copies Jurassic Park in terms of dinosaur appearance, we'll say like, I'm going to say it in Spanish and translate it to English because I can't think of how to translate it immediately, but we say something along the lines of, respetaron el irrefutable y completamente científicamente correcto documental que es Jurassic Park, which means they respected the irrefutable and completely scientifically accurate documentary that is Jurassic Park, you know. And so they had the T-Rex roar from Jurassic Park, and I'm like, well, now I'm more interested if they're going to use the correct sound effects, you know. So I watched Ice Age 3. And that was my fix because it felt like a Jurassic Park crossover movie because it has a lot of references to Jurassic Park. Like a lot. Like when the T-Rex first shows up, everybody freezes, and Manny the Mammoth is like, nobody move a muscle. And I'm like, that's Dr. Grant's line from the third one. And then, you know, a guy runs and T-Rex starts attacking him. And I'm like, all right, this is like a Jurassic Park movie, but with Ice Age. So I would get, you know, I was 12 and I would get hyped whenever, like, when the Ankylosaurus showed up. They walk into like a tunnel and you just see like a rock move, and then you see the rock has like a club at the end of its tail, and I was like, oh! And I thought it was cool because every time you've got a mammoth and you got a saber-toothed tiger, two of like the most formidable Ice Age mammals that you can think of, popular too. And whenever they would go up against the dinosaur in that movie, they would frame them as tiny, as insignificant. You know, like the tiger Diego roars at the Ankylosaurus, and the Ankylosaurus roars right back, and he just panics and runs. So little details like that obviously had my 12-year-old self like, yes, because obviously, you know, like, I don't know if that could be considered like some form of racism or whatever, but I was like, yeah, the dinosaurs are objectively better than the Ice Age animals. Yes, as they should be, you know. But all the posters had the T-Rex on. And 30 minutes into the movie, when they meet the little Simon Pegg character, the Weasel Buck, he tells them that they got to watch out for his nemesis, the thing that took out his eye, and it's not the dinosaur, it's not the T-Rex. And they're like, you mean there's something bigger? And there was no hint to that in any of the posters, trailers, or anything that I saw. So they say, oh yeah, there's a bigger monster here. And I was like, you know, like little 12-year-old me is like, are they actually nah. Will they? The first glimpse, they do this thing. They tell you that the monster is Rudy. That's his name. And is where the Rudy in the username came from, because he was my favorite character in that movie. And they do this thing throughout the movie where you don't see him until the very end. He's in the movie, but they do that Jaws thing where they find ways to show him without actually showing him. And I really like the camera tricks. You know, I didn't know how to put it into words, but I like that they used a lot of clever like camera tricks to try and hide him, but still show you what or where he was. You know, like they would. There's a point where the T-Rex walks away from an area because they hear him coming, and they walk away from the area, and the camera pans down, and you see tilts down. Well, it kind of moves. Doesn't matter. The camera comes down, and you see her footprint, a little three-toed footprint, right on the ground, and all of a sudden Rudy's foot comes down onto it. It's just like boom, and his foot is like twice the size of the footprint. So that right there, it tells you a few things. It tells you what color he is. It tells you the size of him. It tells you that like, okay, this thing is huge, and it was kind of grayish. So when I saw it, immediately in my head, I thought that they were gonna make up a dinosaur. I thought that Rudy was going to be something like the Indominus Rex from Jurassic World, you know? I thought he was going to be like just kind of a generic-looking theropod with a lot of spikes on its back or something. Some made-up thing. But throughout the movie, they keep hinting at his shape, and his shape is very Spinosaurid-esque. Like, they show you that he has like a long mouth, 3 claws, and all this stuff, and I was freaking out in the theater. I was like, are they actually going to do it? That was cool to me because it was like, okay, this is kind of scientifically accurate. They've got something bigger than T-Rex that really existed, and to me, that makes it like all the more like cool. Like instead of making something up, they base something off of reality, and that to me was like so much cooler. In the end, when you finally see him, he's not a Spinosaurus. He's like a mutant baryonyx, and he's not really a mutant. He's just huge. He's basically a Spinosaurus without the spines on his back. So that was disappointing, obviously.
Yeah.
Because there's a few shots in the movie where it almost looks like he has a sail. There's like 3 in particular, but I'll go on a whole other rabbit hole. But I was like really freaking out as a kid. Either way, I just really liked the design. He had a really cool, like exaggerated, cartoony design, but it still looked intimidating. It still looked kind of realistic, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he was my favorite character for the longest time. And that's why I picked the username. And I just haven't changed it because I'm lazy and I'm not preoccupied about.
Yeah.
I'm not that preoccupied about like my YouTube channel is not dead. I use it every day, but like
you don't really make content that much anymore.
I'm not a super. I mean, I never really did. I uploaded stuff, but I was never like a super active creator. I never partnered. I never, I just put stuff up whenever I feel like it. Sometimes,
Yeah, that's where I was at for a while with my channel. So, my origin story for my YouTube channel. Like I said, you and I go way back in the mid 2000s, I think it was. You knew me as Godzilla 5491.
Indeed.
Yes. So I was playing with Windows Movie Maker, making music videos for TV shows and movies and stuff, including Godzilla, of course. So my username, obviously, Godzilla, who was made in 54. And I was born in 1991, hence Godzilla 5491.
Yep, I remember that. Because it was year and your birthday.
Yeah.
Then you made a second one and flipped it around.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a second. Do you remember my Godzilla blog series?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Back when I was still using Windows Movie Maker and back before I got comfortable being in front of the camera. For those who don't know, which is pretty much everyone watching, Godzilla blog was basically like a slideshow video thing with text and pictures from the movies and music from the movies. And I would talk about stuff like what's Godzilla's gender, or top 5 favorite Godzilla films, or favorite roar, or favorite suit, etc., etc. And of course, because I kept using the music from the movies, I got a couple of copyright strikes, and I made a backup channel called AlizDog5491, basically the same name, but Godzilla spelled backwards. So the original channel eventually got suspended, and I started making silly videos on the second channel, like Godzilla dances to funny music and humorously edited Godzilla clips. I didn't really put that much effort into that channel for a while, until last year when I got the urge to make content again, and I changed the channel name from AlizDog5491 to Kaiju Kim. Aww. And here we are. So that's me.
Yeah, I remember you just started putting them up on Facebook and stuff like that, and I was like, is this the same channel? I was just like, oh, what's this? Oh, look, these are like actual presentation videos with her in them now. Oh, look at that. Or I would watch them, and I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I was posting them on Facebook for a while, then I just no one paid attention to them on Facebook, so I just stopped posting there. So I should maybe start doing that again. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right. So what are you doing now? So you don't really make videos anymore. I mean, you like you were saying, you don't really make videos. Before,
every now and then I mean, you mean in terms of YouTube stuff, editing stuff for fun?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, right now I've been trying to download all 3 Monster Verse movies. By the way, I found that thing I was telling you about.
Okay.
For those that don't know, it was some people already know about them. There are MP4, well, I think they're MP4 copies of movie Blu-rays that you can find online sometimes. When you download them, they have 4 channels on them, 4 audio channels, and each of those tracks has different sounds on it. It's like elements of the sound mix divided. And I was able to find one. I've been able to find a few movies like that. Independence Day, both the Jurassic World movies. What else? Both Godzilla 2014 and King of the Monsters. I lost the old 2014 one, but I recently found another copy. So now I have one with all 4 channels in it. and it's useful for like extracting sound effects and stuff like that, particularly KOTM. And I think to a lesser extent, Godzilla vs. Kong. I haven't seen it for myself, but I know they have been uploading the no background music clips with the same method. But particularly Godzilla vs. Kong and KOTM they have their sound, at least one track with the sound effects almost completely isolated, with no music in it. So it's been really easy for people to get those sound effects in it. But the one in Godzilla 2014, for whatever reason, the music is mixed into all the channels there. So it was hard for people to get sound effects out of there for a while. Particularly the atomic breath sound effects, because if you listen to pretty much any clip of like before King of the Monsters came out, anything pre-2019, where you would look up Godzilla's legendary sound effects, the atomic breath charge up sound effect, it was like the first half of the one that you hear the first time he uses it, like looped after that first half, because you just can't get rid of that, that rising tone in the background from the soundtrack. Nobody could get rid of that. So it's kind of this weird Frankensteinian thing where where you hear the same sound effect from the first half just kind of sped up. I mean, it sounds all right, but I don't know. It just sounds weird to me. And I've been trying to mess with that a little bit because I was able to find a version. I've been able to find I think I can maybe patchwork together a thing that sounds enough like the real sound effect, using little pieces of Godzilla vs. Kong and some of the sound effects from the PUBG Godzilla game, which incidentally uses part of that sound effect. So I've just kind of been experimenting with that. A lot of the stuff I experimented with in editing, I just kind of showed at school when I was, still studying, and I did a lot of short film work and stuff, a lot of it just for fun back in the day. So that's mostly where I spent most of my time in the past few years. Like, I was going on YouTube every day and still watching videos and stuff, but I don't usually interact online that much. I mean I do, but like in direct text messages or talking face to face. I just prefer one-on-one stuff.
Okay. So speaking of the MonsterVerse, when I asked you to come on, you expressed interest in sharing your thoughts on the MonsterVerse in general. Now, I already gave my 2 cents on it with OmniViewer last month, but I am interested in hearing what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I was watching that. Oh man, the MonsterVerse. It's really cool. All of the films in the MonsterVerse, I think, it's kind of like the Dark Knight trilogy or the Metroid Prime trilogy in terms of video games for me. All of them are my favorite for something different. They all have something where they excel at the most. Like the first one, Gareth Edwards is like a personal hero of mine because he did what me and a lot of my friends from school dreamed that we could do, Like, he went out and he made his cheap, no budget monster movie, and it looks good, and all of a sudden, like, they called him up, like, do you want to direct Godzilla? And it's like, that happens,
Wow.
Like, that is possible. Okay,
Oh, well then.
So yeah, I'd love to meet him someday. But yeah, the MonsterVerse, man, there was nothing quite like the hype for that first Godzilla movie, the 2014 one.
Mm-hmm.
That was well, I want to say legendary, but that would seem like a bad pun. So, but it was definitely memorable. And like the movie itself, I really love it. I enjoy it a lot. I think it has a character problem that I understand why they did it, but I mean, everybody, everyone and their mom has talked about this. They shouldn't have killed Joe Brody, in the first third.
Yeah.
He was obviously the clear choice to be the main character. It's like, hey, Ford, he's all right. I get it. I mean, I get why they wanted him to be the main character, because he doesn't do that much. He's kind of a passive character. He kind of reacts to what happens around him. But that's kind of the point of Godzilla movies. You know, humanity's supposed to be kind of useless-ish. Maybe not useless, but very, very reactionary. You know? Like, they gotta work with what they got. But Bryan Cranston is just Bryan Cranston. He was such a big... And I've heard, you know, them talk about it in, like, interviews. When they cast Bryan Cranston, like, the dad character was always going to die. But when they cast him, they tried to rewrite the script. And like, man, we can't waste Bryan Cranston. You've got to do something, you know, real. But they, as I recall, they said something along the lines of, no matter how much they tried, they just kept writing Indiana Jones 3. They just kept doing Last Crusade, and it was like it just turned into a comedy about a guy and his dad. You know? I mean, so I get it, but honestly, Bryan Cranston and Serizawa should have been the main characters of that movie. It should have been the Ken Watanabe and Bryan Cranston show. You know? And you know, the son could have been there just to do stuff or whatever, just to do the plot stuff. Whatever that. So yeah, the human characters aren't the best in that. But I just love the tone of that movie. The tone and I know you were talking about how you don't like the realism of the movie, or like the how seriously it takes itself. That is actually what I enjoy the most about it, because, and it's kind of interesting considering where the MonsterVerse went after that. You know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, I guess this is officially Fantasyland. All right.
Like, all right, I'm down.
Like, all right, never mind that. The reason I like the realism of it is so much is because, to me, the idea of an American Godzilla movie was, to me, it was the thing I was most interested in is seeing what Godzilla would be like for real. Because I'm like, well, you got these big Hollywood special effects, these, you know, obviously way more convincing generally than the old suits were.
Mm-hmm.
This is a chance to, like, if you're gonna make him look real, you got to make it like believable. So to me, it seemed like the natural thing, to where, like, as much as I love the old suits, they had a big chance to correct something that for the longest time I always thought, man, they keep missing this in the old movies. I don't know if it was just a budgetary thing or they didn't think about it or whatever, but whenever Godzilla would swim, it would give away the size of him, because the splashes he would make were human size. You know, like I've been to SeaWorld. I've been whale watching. I know when something that size comes out of the water, it doesn't make like a regular splash, like a cannonball splash. It makes more like a big, like a waterfall type. It's just like the water almost vaporizes. You know, it just makes like a big white explosion of I don't know what do you call it when the water gets all like that? White water, basically. Like, it's a completely different type of splash. Like you know when you see it when an explosion is human size as opposed to giant size, you know? So that would give it away to me. And so little details like that, I was like, oh, this is the chance to make it look real. Make the splashes like really big. Make it look like he's having an effect on the weather. Make it look like he's having an effect on the environment around it. And throwing up huge amounts of like dust and stuff, you know, without covering the entire screen. So to me, it just went hand in hand with that. It's like, if you're going to make it look real, it should feel real. It should feel like, what if Godzilla really was in our world? And if you're going to make it more fantasy, then ease us into that. So that's why I really love the first one. It has this I really loved like the mysterious tone of the first half of that movie. I really don't mind that Godzilla appears only an hour in, because that first half is just such a wonderful buildup. That the whole thing is like mysterious, and little by little, I really like that approach to movie making, where it's something big, almost conspiracy-like, that slowly comes into the real world, and that's meant to be the story of how the world first learns about Godzilla in the first place. So, to me, that seemed like the right approach. Like, you start in our world and you ease us into his world, little by little, and then by the end of the movie, you know, like Admiral Sten says in the movie, "Cat's out of the bag, no more secrets. We can't keep these monsters hidden." And it's like, okay, now in the second half, now we all have to deal with that. Obviously, the problem is that in the second half, after Joe dies and Godzilla shows up, they keep cutting away to him. I mean, from him.
Mm-hmm. I hated that so much.
I remember the first time, and I mean, I get it. Here's the thing. They could have gotten away with it if they didn't do it the second time. because the second time, okay, that first one kind of hurts. Well, no, it really hurts that first time where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's it.
Why you gotta do that?
Because like it's like this big, it's like that whole scene is masterful when he first shows up. It's 5 minutes of build up to finally see him, and then you cut away. It's like,
that's one of the reasons I don't like that movie.
the thing is, everybody was okay with it until we cut to the next day. Because if you watch the old theater reactions, I mean, I don't think they're up anymore, but I remember the 3 times I saw it in theaters, everybody laughed when it cut away to the screen where the kid's watching, and you see Godzilla fighting in the background on the TV. But I think that that's because everybody thought that after that quick scene of the mom going like, when she sees the Godzilla on the screen fighting the male Muto, everybody thinks that it's going to cut back to Hawaii and we're actually going to see the fight now. But it doesn't. It cuts back to Hawaii, all right. But it's the next day. It's like, oh, well, I mean, I get not wanting to like waste it right away. But you know, every movie can use like a nice centerpiece, and there are action scenes throughout the rest of the movie. But people, you know, really like the Mutos do show up throughout the movie. Here's the thing: the movie is full of monster stuff. It's just that those scenes are those cutaways are very in your face, so it sticks in your mind more than the actual scenes where you've got like the Mutos and there's a lot of suspense and stuff. I didn't mind that the Mutos were on screen more than Godzilla was, because to me I really liked their designs, and I thought that they were interesting. They treated them as kind of real-ish creatures. I wasn't initially a big fan of the fact that all the monsters were meant to be prehistoric, because to me, I feel like that kind of takes away from the specialness of Godzilla. I'm like, well, if he's just one of many, that's not that cool. I feel like they could have gotten away with it if they said like, oh, well, Godzilla's part of a species, but he was caught in an atomic blast, and now he's like a mutated version of that species. Like, he's uglier, he's more jagged. That's why his skin looks like that. His dorsal spines are all crooked. You know, something like that. Because, but you know, once you get over that, I was like, well, these things are still cool, and I like the Mutos. But in the last half, that fight is pretty good. You know, when you finally get the fight, I really enjoyed it. The atomic breath scene was great, but I think even there they were a little too restrained, because he only used it once, and then another time to kill the other one. But I thought they undercooked the. I like the design of it, and I like the fact that this is something that I had wanted to see for a while, even back when I was like a young kid or teenager or whatever, waiting for the movie to come out. And it's that when he uses his atomic breath, his fins don't all light up at once. It goes up from his tail all the way up to his neck. So it's like sequentially. And I thought that was cool. That's something I had wanted to see. But I didn't like that the fins only kind of light up like in parts. You know what I mean? Like his fins are like a solid piece of rock or whatever it is they're meant to look like. And like there's like light inside, but only like the thinnest patches, like lines in them light up. You know, instead of like the actual fin looking like it's glowing from the inside. It looked too dim. Like it looked like really, really, like they could have used more light because it's not that noticeable. Everybody complains about that in the movie. Like in general, Godzilla 2014 is too dark. Not in subject matter. It just I can't see what's going on. You know, and that I feel like that's something that they didn't correct until the very last movie in the whole MonsterVerse. The darkness of it.
Bitore in Goji says slow burn versus just here for Godzilla. I think on the second one.
And I like this characterization too. I'll say this. What Godzilla is in that movie, they got him absolutely right. All of the scenes with him in it, you're like, they did justice to the character. That is what he should be. That he got his personality, his style. The scene where I like the scene where he gets crushed by that building and he looks at Ford and they have that quiet little moment. I really like it because it's a very quiet moment. You see a lot of characterization. You see it in his eyes. And I'm like, okay, Godzilla really feels like a character in this. And even though I could have used more of him, I liked how masterfully his scenes were directed. Even though I personally don't agree with a lot of the lighting choices and things like that. But whatever. That's when you start getting into like, well, this is the movie I would have made, and it's not really good for the film criticism, I think. But in general, I really, really like that movie, even though I feel like I like it, but I feel like it's just short of being really, really great, like being a real masterpiece. To be a masterpiece, I feel like it should have been Bryan Cranston been the main character, and it should have had at least that scene in the middle with Godzilla in it. Because that second part when they cut away, when Elizabeth Olsen runs into that truck and they close the doors, and they close the doors right as he's starting to fight the male Muto again. Technically, they didn't cut away from the fight because it cuts immediately to the halo jump. So it's like it cuts away from the fight and then it cuts right back into the fight immediately. But because they already got you with it once, it feels worse than it is because it's like, you're doing this to me again. It feels like they're messing with you. It's like no, screw you guys. Don't do this again. So even though you get this fight immediately afterwards, you're still mad because it's like that. It's like, well, you already did it to me once. There's also the Las Vegas scene. They also do it in the Las Vegas scene.
Yeah, you're just explaining why I don't like the movie. Continue.
And that's why. Oh man, so that's why I feel like that movie could have been a smash, like an utter, like it was a big cultural event, but too many people were turned off by those little things. So even though even though obviously it wasn't a failure because here we are all these years later and they're still making them, it could have been a bigger cultural event. I feel like Godzilla vs. Kong is barely like, it finally fulfilled its potential, the MonsterVerse, and it finally reached like real mainstream appeal. Like it almost did right at the beginning because they sold it as Heisenberg versus Godzilla because Breaking Bad had just ended,
From Robert Sager, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Some of my favorite Godzilla films don't have much Godzilla in them. That's fair. My issue with Godzilla 2014 is that the rest of the movie isn't terribly interesting. I agree. Though the section with Cranston is good. Also agreed.
I feel like that defense isn't entirely fair when they say that a lot of the old Godzilla movies don't have much Godzilla in them, which is true. But they're also a lot shorter than 2014 is. So even though they have,
That's true. Yeah, go ahead.
So even though they have, like the same, Godzilla's only in both for like 20 minutes. It's like, well, yeah, but this one's like an hour and 20 minutes. 2014 is like 2 hours. So, 20 minutes gets you a lot more bang for your buck in the first one than it does in the later one. So that's why it feels like a little less. But I like it for its tone and its sense of realism, and it's like, I just like existing in that world for a little while and seeing what it would be like. But at the same time, that's why the cutaways kind of hurt because, I don't mind when you see the creatures on the cameras and stuff because it makes it feel like they're really there. It kind of has that Cloverfield vibe where it feels like, oh, you kind of, okay, I like seeing that. I just wish you could see it a little more. Now, controversially, well, I don't know, you want to talk about Kong or you just want to skip to the Godzilla stuff because that's what this is about?
Keep going. What you get? I don't want to interrupt your train of thought there.
Well, I was just gonna jump straight into King of the Monsters. King of the Monsters is interesting. I think it is was the most fun, like the most hype-inducing of the MonsterVerse.
It really was.
It's the most fun, but at the same time, I feel like it's also the worst one for different reasons. Like I feel like it has the highest strong points, but also the lowest low points. And it's because it's interesting. I don't really... Okay, obviously the high points. The score. No holds bar. Like I don't think there's any real debate about this. King of the Monsters has the best music out of the entire MonsterVerse. The best. Like,
amen.
It is, obviously. And, obviously they cheat. It's like, why does it have the best? Well, because they just copied from the old ones.
Basically, yeah.
But they modernized it, and it sounds really cool. So it's like, yeah, well, they used the Godzilla theme, they used the Mothra theme, they used, we were on the verge of greatness. We were this close. If they had just used the
yeah.
But when Rodan comes out of the volcano,
that would have been awesome.
I should make an edit of that. I've seen versions of that orchestrated. It's like But generally speaking, here's the thing. It sounds so weird, but like I would like to see Michael Dougherty work on more stuff because I just like his spirit a lot. He's obviously really, really into this. But at the same time, I don't like his directing style visually. I like the tone of the movie. I like when they're giving exposition. I don't mind the exposition in that movie. It's so lore accurate and it's so like, it's so like just rapid fire and they're giving you stuff like it's so chock full of Easter eggs. I feel like, ETN, the entertainment talk news, Rob, that bald guy, Entertainment Talk Nation, I think it is. I remember he did the review when the movie first came out. And his thing was like, all right, 2014 was an intro to the masses for Godzilla. King of the Monsters, it doesn't care about the mainstream audience at all. This movie was made.
Yeah, it really doesn't. That was like a love letter to Godzilla fans, like who like crazy and wild and stupid.
Yeah, it said like, this movie was made for the hardcore fans, and I don't care about anybody else. And when I saw the movie, I was like, he's right. And I remember just being there with my friends in the theater, and I was like, man, that guy was right. It is awesome. Now, what I don't like about his directing style, visually, a lot of people seem to praise the visuals in that movie. It's interesting. I don't like them. I don't like the way he shoots the monsters. Honestly, I have a really big problem with that because I feel that for most of the movie, I can't see what's going on. I feel like the lights in that are way too... I feel like they overdid it with the color correction and the weather effects. I mean, everybody says that, but really, I like to play this game sometimes where I look at... Oh, man, I don't know about the screen. Maybe I can do it now, but like... can you screen share or can you like go on to... How do you do it? Just go on to YouTube.
What are you trying to do?
Okay, do me a favor. Look up a scene from King of the Monsters with the monsters in it. Look up any monster fight scene, and we'll show it on the screen. And let's play a little game that I like to do sometimes. It's sometimes I call it the Pacific Rim effect with my friends, or sometimes I call it I swear there's a monster here syndrome. I'll show you what I mean.
All right, let me just get through this ad here. 1 second.
Hey.
Shut up. I hate when I can't skip the ad. Shut up. All right. Blah, blah. One moment.
In the meantime, I'll keep talking about what I do like about the... Oh, you got it. Okay. Burning Godzilla, right?
Uh-huh.
Let's play the clip now.
I don't want to get in trouble with the copyright gods.
Oh, it's okay. We don't have to play the clip. Just pause it at in any instance.
Like here's if you squint, you can see Ghidorah right here.
Exactly. Ghidorah is there, but we can only vaguely... Like, I feel so sorry for the CGI artist. They made this beautiful model of the creature. And he's like, well, he's there, but what is with the color correction? Why can I barely see him, It's, like, why... I don't know, like, all the scenes in the movie have, like, 1 or 2 colors in them, and, like, that's basically it. Hit any other scene... Like anywhere else, click anywhere else where the monsters are on screen. Okay, there's Godzilla. You can make out his head-ish, but other than that, really, where's his silhouette? It just looks like a blob. It just looks like an orange mass,
I mean, if you're pausing and looking at it like hard, like, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like click. Oh, and the lighting thing. Click when anywhere else where he. Oh well, there's Ghidorah again. You can kind of make out his horns. There's Boston.
Yeah, there's Ghidorah again. Is that Kevin?
And because they film it this way, I feel like it takes away from the size of the monsters. Because there's never really any sense of place in the movie. If you click any of the scenes, remember, they're in a city here. And to me, the giant monster movies are equal parts about the monsters as they are about where they destroy. because the whole point is seeing the monster in the city. Here you see Godzilla, but he's basically all in silhouette. It's one of the better shots of him. But all the other monsters show up, and when you look at them, they're also like very faded. They're like basically mostly silhouettes, and you're like, okay, I can see there's a thing there, but I can't really make out the design of it. Methuselah is actually in this. Okay, there's Rodan's wing, and you can barely make it out just because it kind of sort of glows. That shot at the end is pretty beautiful, and it's supposed to be in silhouette. So over this shot's all right. You know, I really like it. It's one of the better shots in the movie, but it too has that thing going on where you can't really tell where a monster starts and where the background like starts. And I get that here it's kind of meant to be kind of hazy because it's like morning and all stuff like that. But like Methuselah, can anybody really get an idea of Methuselah's design from the movie itself?
Not really, but Omniviewer, what's up, Omniviewer, makes a good point. You can't play this game during the Rodan scene. Well, let's see. I think does he mean that does he mean that like it'll be worse during the Rodan scene, or in the Rodan scene it doesn't work? Like it does look good during the Rodan scene. I'm assuming that's what he means. Let's see. Let's pull it up.
Oh look, we got the Rock. We got the Rock on the show. Okay, the Rodan scene. Okay, so here we can clearly see Rodan. It's one of the better shots, but I don't really get a sense of where they are. You can tell he's looking at the sky, but like there's actually an ocean in front of him, and it doesn't look like an ocean. You know? Okay, well here you got Rodan's chest, but you know that's supposed to be like a shot in motion. But here you can tell you're like in a. Okay, there you can clearly see Rodan, but again, where is he?
He's in the sky, obviously.
Huh?
He's in the sky.
Yeah, in the sky, but like there's supposed to be like water in front of him. That thing in front of him is supposed to be a storm. And you can't really tell where the storm starts and where the sky ends. Like the storm, to me, the storm looks less impressive because you can't really tell. Like there's nothing contrasting the storm from just the sky. Everything just kind of has this hazy kind of this hazy, extremely foggy feel to it. Which it's because I feel that they're filming the creatures like they would film people. When you film a fight between people, like in a boxing match or whatever, the camera sometimes whips back and forth between the guys or whips around the people or whatever. The problem is when you're filming people at that scale and you're moving the camera around, moving it from person to person makes it's something like what? 2 feet of movement? Like your brain can interpret that easily. But filming giant monsters in the same way, doing a quick pan from one to the other, all of a sudden, that's a good shot. That's a good shot right there. But unfortunately, the thing with those is that they're few and far between because those shots are lit up by Ghidorah's lightning strikes, and they're literally like a millisecond long. So it's like, it's literally microseconds throughout the movie when you can see a creature that clearly. Oh, you know, this, yeah. Okay, well, I mean, his wings are lit up, like, but see, like, you can't even see his legs there.
I mean, they're moving really fast, though. Cut it some slack. There's a lot of action in this movie.
That makes it worse. They're cutting like this. When you cut that fast, like, your brain is disoriented because these things are so huge. You know, it's like falling through the sky. It's like, I can't tell what's going on because one little pan like this, whereas, you know, with people, it would be like 2 feet. With giant monsters, all of a sudden you're talking like several feet of movement, and your brain interprets that as just like it takes a moment to like readjust, be like, where am I now? You know? So, you know, it's the same thing that everybody's talked about. It's like all these weather effects and like all the extreme haze. It's like, oh man, you know, these are some great designs, but I just can't see them. You know? And to me, the quick cuts, it really affects the atmosphere of the movie. Because I feel like I can't really get a sense of what's going on or where I am because of the breakneck speed of the thing. Oh, and speaking of the Rodan scene, okay, so I don't know if you would consider this blasphemy or not, but I think that King of the Monsters in the Rodan scene has a cutaway that's even worse than the ones in 2014.
And the Rodan scene?
in the Rodan scene, and it bothers me more.
Really?
And it was right there where you let it off. Right where you were paused.
Oh.
It's when Rodan and Ghidorah hit each other. Immediately, the thing cuts to the Yargo going down, and then it comes back up. Then you get like 2 shots of Rodan and Ghidorah fighting, and then it goes back into the plane, and Mark is like, Jesus, they're killing each other. And then the rest of that scene is the helicopter where Ice Cube's son is. What's his name? Sergeant Barnes or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know.
It cuts to the scene where they're on the helicopter that's like the Osprey that's like failing, and they got to get it in the plane. And when that scene is done, or like in the middle of that scene, it then cuts to the end of the Rodan and Ghidorah fight. To Ghidorah killing, well, not killing, but beating Rodan, and he just falls in the ocean. And you can't see him in that scene either. I remember that in that scene, you see that Ghidorah knocks down Rodan. In fact, look it up. That scene is kind of hilarious. Look up the end, the complete fight. The fight is like 4 shots long.
I mean, I'm sure it's in here. I'm sure it's in here somewhere.
It's not. That's where
it's not.
started.
Okay.
Yeah. Look up another one. But the reason that scene bugs me so much is because, unlike the other cutaways were cutaways to mundane stuff in 2014. But here, it's a cutaway to an action scene of the humans trying to get the helicopter back onto the plane to save the kids or the refugees that they got off of the island. Refugees that never come up in the movie again. They are not important to the plot. But they spent real money, and like they spent a huge chunk of the budget on a big major action scene of trying to save a helicopter while Rodan and King Ghidorah are fighting. They could have spent that money on the fight. And instead it's like a minute and a half of the helicopter. Right? Yeah. I think that's it. I think they just got rid of the helicopter scene there. Because look, like if you scroll forward, that's where the fight begins. And if you scroll forward, that's where they start fighting. And you can't see anything.
I mean, yeah, it is kind of dark. But
okay, right there. He knocks him down. The shot right after this one. That's a good shot. But the shot right after that one, King Ghidorah is in that frame. Oh, it was right there.
Oh.
Ghidorah's in that frame. You can't tell. The lightning strikes for like 1 moment. And Rodan's falling there, and you see the plane, like scroll back like a tiny little bit before the lightning strikes. That's the same shot. There are 2 kaiju in this frame. 2. And I don't see anything.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. So, like, you got Rodan and Ghidorah fighting, and they spend the budget on saving a helicopter. And they give you the whole scene of them saving the helicopter, and then it cuts back to the end of the fight. So it's like, what? And to me, that seems somehow worse than getting nothing at all, because it's like, wait. You spent money on this. You could have spent the money on the fight. Why did we need to see them saving the helicopter? You know?
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's why that's my least favorite cutaway in the MonsterVerse. But other than that, the characterizations, like, other than that visual complaint, the tone of the movie is great. I feel like some of the lore is undercooked because Godzilla King of the Monsters is so chock full of classic lore, but it's so full of it that they don't really develop much of it. They just tell you, like, there's a little snippet when you see Dr. Chen, the Chinese woman, one of the Mothra twins.
Mm-hmm.
They put the Mothra twins in the movie, but they're like human adults and they work for Monarch. But they don't develop it really at all. Like, they just tell you that they're there, and you see the pictures of their family, and the pictures of like their grandmother says Infant Island 1961. Like, oh, there was an expedition to Infant Island in 1951. That canonizes Infant Island. It canonizes something along the lines of the Aventus of the original Mothra, maybe-ish. Like, there's something like that lore exists in this world. But it's just a snippet. Like, it's just a thing that confirms that exists, but they don't really do anything with it,
Yeah, maybe they will in the future. Who knows?
I hope they do. I really hope they do. I feel like there's a really good story in there with like Mothra's lore and all that stuff. Like the scene where they mention when Rodan shows up for the first time, Mark says, "You got a catchy name for this one?" And the lady says, "Local legends call it Rodan, fire demon." And I'm like, well, I would like to hear some of those legends. I would like to develop I would like to actually see the lore instead of just being told that there is the lore, because that's the negative side of the movie being so chock full of faithful lore that they just talk about it. So it's like, I could have used with a little more. They just crammed everything in here, but it's still very, very fun nonetheless. My favorite part, well, one of my favorite parts of the movie, was when they uncover the truth of Ghidorah, and they say, and she says like, "We uncovered something," and she's like, "It tells of a great dragon who fell from the stars." Me and my friend, we looked at each other and we're like, "Oh, they make Ghidorah an alien, as he should be." They went, they did it.
A false king.
Mm-hmm, a false king. And I like that they actually, the best thing that this movie does is it gives a purpose to the title King of the Monsters. Because there's already a movie called Godzilla King of the Monsters, but it's the American version of the original. And it's like just like it's like a different version of it. Everybody, most people know the story. It's like, oh yeah, it's Gojira, but with scenes added and taken out, and it's like the same story but with other stuff. And that movie is called Godzilla King of the Monsters, but there's no meaning to it. It's just old 50s hype and marketing. Come see Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Master of Monsters, the hypest thing. It's like when they call him the Spectacular Spider-Man, the Invincible Iron Man. It's just, it's old circus hype machine type stuff.
Yeah.
And this movie actually gave a purpose to that. And it was really cool. Like when you see that final shot of him roaring with all the other creatures bowing, and the screen cuts to black, and you hear the dun, 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 dun. And the title shows up huge, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And it's like, yes! It's like, yes, oh yes! It has meaning there. It's like it's like this is the legitimate use of that title. Like, it's like, yes, this movie will forever go down in history as the true one that should be titled Godzilla, King of the Monsters, because that's what it is. That's the story it's telling you. So it's like, yes, absolutely, yes. It's like you just want to, honestly, that movie was so full of like just intense stuff that I remember being exhausted when I came out of the theater, just being like, oh my god, there's just so much here. Even though I have those big criticisms of it, it is just like nonstop, like thrills. That movie is like has a lot of super hype moments. The characterization of the monsters were wonderful. They got all the characters right. Mothra is as she should be, even though I also can't see her because of the lights in her scene. She has the opposite problem. Her scenes aren't too dark. Her scenes are too bright. But they make her so bright that you can't see her shape. So it's basically the same thing. But yeah, there's a... I also didn't like how they made her glow blue so much. I like the blue highlights. But due to that, there's only like 2 shots in the movie where you actually see her classic colors. The fact that like she actually has the normal Mothra monarch butterfly-ish coloring. There's only 2 shots in the movie where she has that. Mm-hmm. But other than that, their personalities shine through. Mothra is sweet. She's gentle. She's comforting. She doesn't destroy anything unless she has to. Rodan's kind of Rodan is Rodan. He's just messing around. He's like he comes up and you can just hear him in his voice like, like I'm here to mess stuff up. Get out of the way. He's just messing with the army and all that stuff. It's like, as soon as he gets hit, it's like fighting Ghidorah, like, oh, you'll never take me alive, you giant dragon. Then 5 minutes later, like, can I shine your shoes, Mr. Ghidorah? Of course, Mister. Have a good day, Mr. 3-headed. Then Godzilla beats him, and it's like, Godzilla, boss, how are you? Like a 50s henchman or whatever.
Yeah.
And Godzilla, he's awesome as always, and Ghidorah. I love what they did with his theme, that creepy chant and the voices, and he's just awesome in that movie. I was obsessed with his. This is like probably one of the nerdiest things you're ever gonna hear, but one of the things that fascinates me the most about Ghidorah's design in that movie?
Mm-hmm.
his wings, because for the longest time I thought there's one thing that this movie has to. I think Godzilla fans in general, we're a little sensitive to things being made overly realistic or westernized sometimes, and this is why. You know, like, oh yeah, remember that time that they tried to make Godzilla realistic? It's like what they do. They took Godzilla and they made him into, like, this is even inaccurate to the movie because he doesn't stand like this in the movie. He stands like this, like a real dinosaur. Which again, you know, when I was a kid and would get the Godzilla toys, that's not a real dinosaur. But the thing is, that is the point of Godzilla. He's not a real dinosaur. He's his own thing. He's inspired by dinosaurs, but he has his own lore and things. And so that's why it's okay when he stands upright and all that stuff. He's not really anatomically correct to dinosaurs because he's something else. He's Godzilla. But by that same token, to me, the idea of making Godzilla dinosaur-like, with the 98 one, making him hunched over, making him more like a raptor, making him all that stuff, I feared that they would do the same thing with Ghidorah, in the sense that, particularly his wings, I didn't want him to get classic dragon wings, because I had seen a lot of fan arts where he would do that. Now, the thing about Ghidorah, his wings are... Let me get a piece of paper. What's it? Let's see if I can maybe like a pen or pen. Maybe this will do. Let me see if I got a page out here. All right, here's something. So the thing about Ghidorah is that in the old movies, for the most part, you know, sometimes even Toho has gone against this. Like Kaiser Ghidorah has that, but like Ghidorah's wings in the old movie are shaped kind of like this. You know, like instead of being a classical, like they're not very articulated. See, dragons have this diagonal. Western dragons, for the most part, the ones that we're familiar with, like they have this diagonal sort of bent wing shape. You know, where the wing folds backwards and points downward or whatever. And Ghidorah's point out to the side like this. So I didn't want to see a Ghidorah with that sort of shape, you know, because I thought like if they do that, if they make a Ghidorah that looks like this, you know, that looks like this, like to me that's wrong. That's kind of like a Zilla type thing, you know. It's like, oh, you're taking this creature that has an established design and you're making it more recognizable, but it's also not the creature at that point. So I wanted him to have those things, and they did something interesting. They did give him articulator wings like this, but they made them more like arms. Like the initial articulations, they're longer. They stretch out, and he still has these protrusions that stick out horizontally directly from his body, kind of like this. So his wings are segmented like this. So like, you know, they're basically still like this design, but the very top one stretches out and has like a whole secondary set of wings. And due to the shape that they gave his bone structure, at almost any time, his wings always point out horizontally like a fan. So even though it's a new wing design, like they made his wings more versatile so he can do more stuff with them, they respected the idea that his wings have to kind of point out sideways. You can really see that in the scene where he gets up on the volcano and he wakes up all the other Titans. And that was one of the things that I was really, really into whenever I would draw Ghidorah and stuff like that. It would be like, I really dig the thing they did with his wings. And I like that they respected not giving him overly westernized wings. You know, I thought that was really a really nice detail. And that was one of the big things that I really appreciated about his look in the movie. And so, yeah, sad that he had to die. I wish we could have more Ghidorah. You know, if I had to have one criticism of the MonsterVerse, you know, just one, it would be like, I really wish they had saved Ghidorah for the very end. But you know,
yeah, what can you do?
But it makes sense. You know, Godzilla versus Kong is the bigger like cultural event. You know, Kong is more recognizable than Ghidorah. They also did that thing. So like on a meta level, in like the real world, it makes sense that Kong would be the final opponent. You know, but in a sense, what was I gonna say? Oh man, I lost my train of thought. The thing about Ghidorah was that even though he was in the movie, even though he died in the movie, and he wasn't the final opponent, they still really did him justice. And the big thing is that I like that they also justified the reason he's called King Ghidorah, because they use all his names: Monster Zero, then Ghidorah, and finally King Ghidorah when he takes over all the other Titans. You know, the what's her name? The Sergeant, Ice Cube's boss, Ice Cube's son's boss, the lady, the baldish military lady.
I can't remember her name at the top of my head. No.
Well, I'm pretty sure she's the first one that calls him King Ghidorah in the movie. It might be the only time they actually say it, but she says like, this Category 6 hurricane over DC is where King Ghidorah is nesting. And I was like, oh, they actually, okay, now he's straight up King Ghidorah, but there's actually a reason for it. He's actually ruling over something. You know, he's taking over the world. All right, that's neat. So I like that there's purpose to the naming conventions. And if you notice, Kong never got the name King Kong in these movies. Never.
No.
So that was interesting. And now we come to the end. Godzilla versus Kong, I feel like, even though King of the Monsters has some solid hype, but I really think now Godzilla versus Kong, visually, it has what I was looking for this whole time. Like, Godzilla vs. Kong, I feel, is the best looking movie of the entire MonsterVerse when it comes to the actual monster scenes. Godzilla 2014 has some really great interior work. Like, it has good cinematography from the human's point of view. And I get how they did it, even when the monsters are on screen. I believe Gareth Edwards mentioned something about filming it like a boxing match or like a sporting event. You put the camera where you think the action is gonna be. So like, it's good action, but it feels a little choppy. So that's why the movie feels a little handheld at times, because it's meant to be like, oh, people got the best professional shots that they could of Godzilla in the moment, like almost with no prep. They just knew he was going to be around here and they were waiting to film. But Godzilla vs. Kong, it has like seriously solid. Sorry, getting a phone call. I'm hung up. It has serious. Oh, I'll message them in a minute. It has the best framed action because the camera is stable. You can look up. In fact, let's play that game again if you don't mind. Pull up a scene from Godzilla vs. Kong, and almost any frame, you can see where the monsters are. They're clearly lit. There's a good sense of scale. It just feels awesome because they filmed them the way I think you should. Obviously, it depends on your particular vision as a director. But I really think it's good. It's really effective to film giant monsters as if they were landscapes, with the sensibilities that you would film like sunset videos with, or cityscape videos, and time lapses and things of that nature. You know, very big sweeping shots of the environment, because these creatures are so huge. The environment becomes, the environment is just part of the. It's just part of the package. Because you want to see these monsters in that, like here, you can clearly see they're well lit against the sun. You can tell who's who. You can see the texturing on them. You can see the creatures, but it doesn't look overly produced. It doesn't look staged, but it's beautiful. You can see them. They're very well lit. You can see the boats. You can tell where the sea starts, where the sky starts. Skip ahead anywhere. There's Kong. You can tell what's going on. There's smoke. But everything is like well divided. They use the rule of threes pretty well here. The screen's divided up into three little sections. Even here, you can see Godzilla's in the back, even though that's probably like Flash. I don't really. That's a little King of the Monsters-ish, but even it has, I think, better color grading than that. That shot is fantastic. That with the white water and the sea and all that stuff. Look at that, just swimming away. And like they light them consistently. It's not like flashes of light. Could you put a scene from Hong Kong or something from the final fight?
And then we're gonna wrap it up in a few minutes. We don't.
Sure thing. Hong Kong.
Let's see. Hold on, let me stop sharing for a second.
The scene in Hong Kong.
Yeah,
I think
but this movie. How many times did you see this movie in the theater?
Unfortunately, only 2. The pandemic made it harder. I saw King of the Monsters 5 times. I wanted to see Godzilla vs. Kong 5 times in the theaters too, but it was just a little bit harder to get people together or to really even find the time because I was a little busy at the time. And it wasn't in theaters for as long as I thought it would be. You know, I really thought that with the pandemic. There they are again. I'm going to send them a message and tell them that I'm filming a thing. I'll call them back in a minute. But look at that. You can clearly see where Godzilla is there. Like, there's the city. It's well lit. The camera's not shaking. He's well lit. It just looks great. Oh, man, we cheered a little bit in the theater.
Yeah, I laughed at that. That was hilarious.
Like, yes, you know, they did.
Oh, they did the thing.
Like, we were waiting. Like, is they gonna look? You can see there's a building behind him. You get a clear sense of scale. The shot before that, when Kong is jumping around, that is beautiful.
Yeah, good stuff.
Like, you can tell he's in a city. He's walking around. It's what I wanted to see. It's Godzilla in our world. Even though the movie's got a lot more fantastical, it still looks like you can imagine that looking in real life. You know, it's like that's Godzilla. That's Kong. That's, you know, they're not being lit by quick flashes. It's not super dark. They are well lit. You can see them clearly. You can see where they are. Like, this is Godzilla in a city in our world, and it looks like it should look. You know, it's just beautiful. It's amazing to look at, and it just like honestly, I could look at some of these for hours as if they were paintings. It's just like, look at that. They're right there. It's almost like, I think it's because it's like the closest. I really like looking at animals at the zoo and stuff like that. I just like looking at nature. But the thing about giant monsters is they're not meant to exist in nature. They're meant to exist interfering with the human world. So you want to see them in the cities with familiar landscapes around them and stuff like that. Like familiar to us, urban landscapes. And it's like you want to see them in the human world and see how they're interfering with us and how they're messing with it and see it in the background, see how it affects them. And so, yeah, Godzilla vs. Kong has I think, the best visuals of the MonsterVerse. It just, by far, I would love to see them. And it's also the most honest of the movies. Well, I mean, King of the Monsters is too, because you get exactly what you expect in the title. But like Godzilla vs. Kong, what is it? It's Godzilla versus Kong. Even the villain Mechagodzilla is still a Godzilla. That's why I think it was correct if they used Mechagodzilla and not Mechaghidorah. Because it's like, no, that would break the theme. It's got to be Godzilla versus Kong. So it's got to be a robot Godzilla, not a robot Ghidorah. Even though Ghidorah was controlling him, well, Kevin was. But still, and that's another testament to how far the MonsterVerse went. Because back in the 2014 days, I thought the MonsterVerse was going to be more like the Dark Knight universe, you know, for Batman, where certain villains just wouldn't work. You know, you couldn't get away with Clayface or Killer Croc in the Dark Knight universe. And I thought for the longest time that there's no way they were ever going to bring in Mechagodzilla. Because I'm like, that is just too unrealistic. And they're like, well, yeah, but you forgot that I don't care. And then they just did it. It's like, well, all right then. But it looks good. I even like how he looks, even though it's not realistic, I like how industrial he looks. He looks kind of slapped together. Like, still professionally, but he looks kind of, makes it feel a little bit more real. And it's really cool. So now it even gives me hope, like, well, might as well bring in Gigan. You know, I really want to see Gigan. Fun fact, I have this personal headcanon thing going on where I like to think Gigan was already in the MonsterVerse. Because to me, Gigan was the male Muto. Because if you look at the male Muto, remember, Gigan's a cyborg. And doesn't the male Muto kind of look like something that Gigan could have been before he was turned into a robot? He's got like hooks for hands. He's got that one red line that kind of looks like a visor for an eye in his face. He's got like a hook-like beak. He's got the same kind of legs. Like, slap an exoskeleton onto that thing and like a tail. he even flies, but he's got different kind of wings. Modify all of that, and that could easily be, you know, in the future, you're going to be like, oh, you know, aliens came, took the male Muto's body and turned him into Gigan, you know?
Alrighty, so that's a mouthful.
Yeah, I can just
all right. Monsterverse is good stuff. But you guys can watch my stream on that I did with OmniViewer if you want to get my thoughts on the Monsterverse. But I think we're just about ready to wrap things up for tonight. Do you have anywhere where anyone can find you, follow you, and hear more about your love for dinosaurs and visual effects and all that?
I mean, I put stuff up on YouTube every now and then. I guess you can message me there in the comments. I don't really have any like public social media stuff that I use. Like, I guess if somebody talks to me enough, I can give them, you know, occasionally I can give them like personal, maybe like a Discord or something like that. I usually talk to people more one-on-one. The thing that I have the most attention on YouTube is I did a resound of the last scene in Jurassic World. Fun fact: that last scene in Jurassic World is my favorite movie scene of all time. Like, I have never been so personally moved by something in the theaters as I was with the fight between the T-Rex and the Indominus in Jurassic World.
Yeah,
but that's a whole... We would be here for another hour if I told the story about that. But the point is, I redid the sound effects on that because I felt they were a little lacking. And I put it up on YouTube as the Ultimate Edition, and I'm pretty sure it's like hands down the video that's gotten the most views out of anything I ever did. So, you know, that's interesting. I like doing sound work. I don't do it that much, but I like doing it. It's pretty cool. I might resound some Godzilla stuff sometime. I don't know, but that's something I really like doing. And that's my YouTube channel, I guess. If you want, I guess YouTube doesn't allow private messaging anymore, but I don't. If anyone wants to get in contact with me about some, I don't know, whatever Godzilla stuff, and talk about that, or more podcasts or whatever, I guess they can message me there or on Facebook maybe, or Discord.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on to my stream. Pleasure having you. Nice catching up and hearing your thoughts on the Monsterverse and everything else. And to you watching at home, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to hang out with me and my lovely guest. If you'd like a chance to be on the show, follow the sign-up link down below in the description. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you had a good time with me and my guest here today. And follow me on the socials if you want to get an idea of what I got coming out next. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.